Good evening, friends. We all know Cyrus. He's a trustee twice over. First, the erstwhile trustee of the KM Trust, and then the trustee of the CZCR and CF. He's the one that we Parsis turn to when we want help, or when we need somebody to be interviewed, or when we need an anchor for a program, or perhaps the master of ceremonies. But do we really know Cyrus? We've heard snippets and tidbits about some amazing story and some amazing stories about his past. But we've not really taken the time to put it all together and find out who exactly Cyrus is. Well, we have him here with us now.
Breaking
While
up,
we examine in some detail and we discover for ourselves what makes him quintessentially Cyrus. Sai, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So Sai, let's start with your elementary schooling. Where did you start your play school and your school life?
But I don't think I'd call it play school. In those days, you didn't have any play school. It was basically a nursery school, which was Mr. Pius, which was right next door to the house. I hated going there. And main reason was, I think in KG, I had one of the worst kindergarten teachers you could ever have. She was very aptly named Miss Steele. And she'd beat us up regularly. Almost every day, someone got slugged. So we set her in her place when Mom had bought me a new nylon rubber, and I was using that to rub out a whole lot of things, and I was mucking up my page. So she got upset, Miss Steele, and took the rubber and confiscated it. So I came home and told Mom I don't have my rubber because Miss took it. So Mom, who was the quietest and the sweetest person you could ever think of, got all worked up and took off to meet Miss Steele. And I was thrilled about it till I got to school the next day and got whacked twice for having spilled the beans and tattled behind her. So that was it wasn't the greatest, I think, till I got to class 1. And then from class 2 in Xavier's, I started enjoying it.
Okay. So class 2 to
5, I was in Xavier's. And then in 1970, I went off to Darjeeling, to North Point, St. Joseph's North Point for 3 years. And
why suddenly in between? What happened?
I fell ill in between in 1969. And they got a little concerned about it and felt it would be good to get out, and the mountains would have helped. So that was the main reason.
Okay.
I had a blast.
Well, in Darjeeling, no doubt you had your shop in Darjeeling and a hotel, part of the extended family. The hotel was there. So can you tell us anything about your days in Darjeeling?
Well, school was just fabulous. I mean, it's one of the best schools going in the country, I think. And the bond that you forge over there with friends remains forever, I think. It's really remarkable because I was there just 3 years, and the rest of my time in Xavier's, I still have a very good bond with quite a few of my friends from Xavier's, but the bond I developed with North Point was exceptional. And that was in just 3 years' time. We had the Canadian and Belgian priests over there, and they really gave us a wonderful grounding. We had some great teachers. I was lucky. I was really fortunate to have got that opportunity. We had fun as well. I'm not saying we didn't. We got into trouble enough times, but it was always,
so tell us something about.
Well, you couldn't go out unless you got permission. You were in a boarding school. And just across the road from the main gate were a couple of shops, one of which was a food shop, which served momos. And we'd go there quite regularly. And we discovered that instead of having this circuitous route of climbing down the hillside and then climbing up the hillside through the foliage and then running across the road, it made more sense to just walk straight out of the gate, because there was no security in those days over there. So I was doing it quite often, and one day walking out, I had my father prefect walking in, Father Nunn. So I was at the point of no return. I'd already crossed the road, and he sees me and he says, "Where are you going, Madden?" I said, "I'm going for an outing, Father." He said, "Oh," he says, "You got permission?" I said, "Yes, Father, of course I have." "Good, enjoy yourself." When I came back, and I was quite thrilled. I said, "My acting talents got me through that." And at dinner, a little note was sent saying, "Madden to see prefect." I went in to see him, and he said, "You had a good time, Madden?" I said, "Yes, Father." "Put your hand out." He got 4 of the best on both hands. And that was the discipline that you got. And it worked. It worked well. It worked well. Those were lovely days. I have some very fond memories of it.
I want to know that story about that white mouse, which you won in a lottery.
That was when I was in, I think, class 8 in Xavier's. It was in
Okay.
73. We used to have a thing called Cheshire Homes where you collected money and it was given to the school. And that used to be donated to Cheshire Homes, which was for the poor. And one way of making them cough up would be to ask people to get in little prizes, and we'd have a raffle. And so I won this little white mouse in the raffle. Who will confirm that for you would probably be Katie Lai. Because my sister Avi refuses to believe that I had a white mouse that traveled with me in my pocket. But yes, he did. And all I had to do was tap him and he'd pop his head out of the pocket to see what was happening and then go back in again. I was forced to give him away. He even survived my dog. Brutus had no problem with it. So that was also quite remarkable.
Now, since you brought us Brutus, do explain how you have kept a mad man-eating dog who absolutely defied anyone to take a snack if you were not around to hold him by the collar. I remember coming to your house and reaching across and when you had left the room and reaching across for a tart on the table, and Brutus gave teeth showing. And until I decided that discretion was the better part of valor. So tell me about Brutus and this madness of Brutus.
I think all Parsi dogs are a little eccentric to start with, so they come with a loaded thing in any case, and that's what he looked like. He slept on my bed. He slept with me, and very possessive. In fact, when we were getting married, Trista was coming, and the only thing she was told was, she said, "Your main competition will be Brutus." But he took to her quite well. Yeah, she had no problems with him at all. He was very athletic. He was very athletic. He used to jump in and out of the car of my ambassador. You didn't have to open the door for him. You just kept the window down. He'd leap straight in and he could leap straight out. And he came everywhere with me. I went to parties. I went to play tennis. Where anything I did, he was in the car with me. So he was quite exceptional. He was quite exceptional. Then I went away, and in those 4 years while I was away, I think he started dominating mum, dad to a very large extent because they were a little nervous about him. And then he became difficult to control. That's when he became a little difficult to control. But there was a very nice story about him and Chapo. They used to come to the club very often, and I'd take him for a walk, and a lot of the boys would take him around, especially Sai and Al would happily take him and run around the field with him. He'd love to run. But Chaps would also love to take him because he was very fond of dogs. But Chaps never ran. Chaps would sort of stroll along with him, and then he'd stop to have a cigarette, and then he'd wait, and then he'd look at something. So Brute got upset with it and peed on his leg while he was lighting up a cigarette. He came back and he says, "The bastard, he's peed on my leg." So after that, he didn't take him too often. So that was Brutus.
Okay. So after that came college, I guess.
College was in Xavier's in BCom, and I managed to get through that. And then Dad wanted me to do law, so I tootled off to Bombay, where I managed to get into KC Law. And my biggest regret, I think, that I still have today is not having completed that and have a professional degree. I'm so proud of all my 3 children that all of them have professional degrees. And that was something that I made very clear to them right from the start. I said, don't do what I did, where I did 2 years of law, finished that first exam, and then never continued with it, and went totally into racing and journalism. So really proud of Jamshed, Shara, and Tasha. All 3 have got professional degrees, and it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me.
Wow.
So Bombay, basically, KC Law was a morning session. It was like your BCom here, except they used to start at 7 instead of 6. And that clashed with my timings of going to the racetrack. So it was a toss-up, and it was here that I will never forget my dad coming up and telling me, he says that I'll support you in anything you want to do. If you want to carry on with this, you do it. You don't want to finish, that's fine. But I'm always there behind you. To me, he's been a shining light in my life right through. And he went far too early. He just went far too early. He went in 1986 when I was just 27 years old. But I think the little that he managed to get across, I mean, which father would turn around and tell someone he'd sent to Bombay to do law to say, it's okay, son, you don't want to do it. You're getting into this professionally. You want to make this a career, go ahead. I'm behind you. And that's the sort of person he was. It must have hurt him a lot to say that, but he did it.
Yes, but Sai, look at how well you've done with that. But our little gems you picked up in horse racing, and look how far it's taken you. It's made you into, a commentator of class and quality. It's made you into auctioning. It's brought you into the auctioning of horses. You've got a reputation across the country as perhaps the racecourse's honest broker. In racing's honest broker, basically. Everyone has faith in you, in your integrity, and in your knowledge of horses. And I think it's gone a very, very long way in making you who you are, Cyrus. So I dare say we've got enough briefless lawyers around. We didn't need another one. Lord knows our community's got enough of them right now, at least here in Calcutta. We certainly don't need any more. Of course, incredible. We're very happy with Yazdi. But Sai, honestly speaking, I had no idea about this law background. But I'm really happy that you do have a law background, because you're handling all the cases superbly on behalf of the trust. And well, we've won at least 2 nonsensical cases that were foisted upon us. Thanks to the meticulous follow-up that you did. And we've been exonerated. The court threw both the cases out with some very nasty remarks against the people who filed them. So I think the community owes you a vote of thanks. Even though you may not have completed your law degree, you're certainly doing it CZCRC, very, very proud in all legal matters. Incidentally, Cyrus, just talking about this, the trust matters for a moment. I chanced upon, I think, another forward once again on that ridiculous YouTube saying that we want to sell Beliaghata. You must have come across that too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that YouTube video is dated 2018 August. It's now 2020 September, and we still have the Dokma and we still have the landowner. I think the facts speak for themselves. We don't have to say too much. I know that we are blessed with at least a couple of people who really wish us very, very well in Calcutta. And we'll just have to live with them, I guess, with all the wonderful blessings that they come up with from time to time. But let's not bother too much about them.
I wonder if they mentioned in that whether it was for sale with Bailey or without Bailey.
Well, that'll make a huge difference, actually. With Bailey, the price would go way, way up. He's a gem that we've got. He takes care of everything over there. Aside, we were talking about your dad. Talk to us more about your dad. You see, to us in the Calcutta Parsi community, he's a legend in his own right. A top manager. He went to England and he was supposed to come back and become the managing director. The management reneged on that promise and he just walked out. He didn't give it a second thought. He said, no, they can't keep their promise. I'm walking. He walked out and he made another life for himself. I think he's an incredible man, an absolutely wonderful person. Talk to us about him, Sai.
He was a man of principle. He stood by what he believed in. And he shot straight from the hip. He told you straight to your face what he thought of you, and he didn't hide anything from that. And he went to Harvard actually in '67 to do an advanced management program. And when he came back, he wasn't happy with the way Kilburns were handling him. And so he just walked out. But there's some lovely stories about him when he was in Kilburns. One of the people he hired is Kiran Desai's father, who became a very close friend, Nanu Desai. And he came to meet Dad with his resume, and Dad was very meticulous. I mean, he went through each and every line over there, and he said, well, you've accounted for everything in your life except 2 years. Why were you these 2 years? And he turned around and told him, he says, I was in jail. He says, what were you doing in jail? He says, I was part of the freedom movement. He was hired on the spot.
Oh, wow.
So that's
Right.
the sort of person he was. And I remember him telling his managing director, Sir Michael Parsons, who told him, he says, you know, Jimmy, he says, on weekends we play golf. Why don't you come and join us and play golf? I believe you're quite a good sportsman. You play good tennis and cricket. He turned around and he told him, he says, Mr. Parsons, he says, I see you 5 days in the week. I don't want to spoil my weekend by seeing you for another 2. So let's keep it at that. So that was the sort of person he was. But it was what he gave back to people, which was incredible.
Yes,
he developed a tremendous enthusiasm for management, and he became an authority on it. He became an authority on listening, which is something he started, I think, light years before people even realized what listening was all about. And he's written 2 books. One was Motivate Your Salesman on the art of selling, and The Art of Listening. It's called Listening for Managers. And both were published, and both were proofread by Rohi Pantaki. In fact, he always acknowledged that, and Rohi was a great help and a solace to him right through.
And I believe he also interviewed and appointed Bahadur Postwala.
Rohinton Kapadia, I'm sorry, not Pantaki. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Okay. And he also appointed Bahadur Postwala.
I think he took Bahadur in, yes. I think he did take Bahadur in.
That's right.
And he's the youngest of the 5 trustees today on the board.
That's right. And Bahadur has some wonderful stories too.
I'm sure he will.
We'll leave that for another day. Yep.
But it was what he gave to Pasi Club also, Rumi, which was amazing. And
he was a tremendous cricketer, a very good hockey player.
He played
Ranji
Trophy. He played Ranji Trophy for Bengal.
And a master tactician. In cricket, he had this uncanny knack of hitting the ball just hard enough so it would go to the boundary line and stop. And the fielder chasing it always felt he had a chance. He'd go chasing all the way to the boundary line, and the ball would touch the rope almost and stop. It wouldn't even cross over, leaving the frustrated fielder panting away. And then the next shot would again be, and this is to mumble to himself while running. And I knew him very well because he did come to Parsi Club and he did coach us in hockey also. And what I do remember is the badam darak that he used to throw into his language, you know. It was very flowery language, to say it politely. And I know he often referred to you with a name that can only be used for those born out of wedlock. But the way he said it and his mannerisms was so perfect. He's such a thorough gentleman. And if ever he felt he had offended you slightly even, he would immediately call you up, take you to lunch, off to Calcutta Club. We would go and I had lunch with him on 2 or 3 occasions. I have no idea why, I can't remember. But I do remember once in Docky, he told me very nicely. We had this practice session which he observed. And he told me, you know, Lumi, you're running so well. You've got such terrific speed, a wonderful start, you know, wonderful anticipation. But GC, wait for the ball. Why are you running up and down uselessly? So he filled him up. But immediately after that, he phoned up and said, no, I feel very bad. You must come to Calcutta Club and we'll have lunch together. So we had lunch together. But he was a wonderful influence on Calcutta Parsi Club and a wonderful influence on all of us. He motivated us to play. And when he would come to play our match, see our matches, we played our hearts out and did the best we could.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yes,
something
we
I've
had a
always
wonderful
felt
father.
very
Yeah.
guilty about, that I've never been able to give back to Pasi Club what he did, because he was really so much a part of it. I mean, it was quite incredible.
Yes,
Quite incredible.
Cyrus, but while your dad played Ranji Trophy, we've seen your leg spin bowling, and we're very, very happy that you took a back seat and never came for the cricket team. Mind you, Jamshed too took a leg spin bowling, but we made him into a very good fielder. He had a very crucial catch, which got us the tournament when we played in Sikandrabad. It was a very exciting match, and he held his nerve. It was a very high catch near the side screen, and well, that won us that tournament. So somewhere, someone's looking out for us all. So, your family has been very close to you. Tell us something about Khushru, uncle. He was very close to you. You took such good care of him. And I know Gulu and Jangir, who are also watching, have the highest possible regards, respect, and love for you for what all you did for Khushru. So just tell us something about Khushru, his tennis playing abilities, and your tennis along with Naushir. Give us that part of your life.
I think we bring Gul in and let her come in with a little bit about her dad as well. But
Sure.
he was also there was no malice ever in him. He never had any malice at all. And he was one of the most stylish tennis players you could ever see. He and Naresh Kumar were very close friends. That continued right through till the day he died. And even today, Naresh remembers him so, so fondly. Amongst all the Maddens who played tennis, I think Khushru was easily the best of the lot, because he was ranked in the first five in India in the men's. In fact, in 1 year, I think he came up to being number 2 or number 3. And the humility of the man is amazing. The Davis Cup team went and toured on the Davis Cup to England, I think, when they traveled. And he went with the team. So everyone said, Khushru played Davis Cup for India. And he said, no, I didn't play Davis Cup for India. I went with the team. I paid my fare and I traveled with the team, even though I wasn't officially selected to be part of the team, which he should have been. But he wasn't taken, and he went on his own, never once coming out and telling people that, yeah, I played Davis Cup for India. I was on the team. But he was very much there. So that was the sort of person he was. You couldn't not like him. He had an amazing sense of humor. My kids adored him. And he'd always take the mickey out of them. They'd have these little standing jokes all the time, especially on the phone, when he'd phone up and the girls would ask him that who's speaking, and he had to decide whether it was Shara or Tasha. So he was very fond of them as well. He and his wife, Kitty, were both very, very good to us. And he deserved everything he got from us. I think he was such a wonderful person. He was just such a wonderful person. But there was 1 year in the Calcutta Hardcourt tournament, I forget which year it was. I think it must have been in 73. I reached the finals of the under 14. Naushir reached the finals of the under 18. And Khushru reached the finals of the veterans. Only Khushru got the trophy. Only Khush won. The two of us both lost in the final.
Well,
we've seen some lovely matches of him playing Naushir at Pasi Club. And the age difference was so, Naushir was in his prime. I mean, he was 18 years old. He was at his peak. And even then, Khush would beat him at times. So it just showed you the class that he had and the level at which he had played. He'd played Wimbledon a couple of years. So it's not that, he hadn't. He traveled. He was an amazing player and a wonderful human being, more than anything.
So I would say, in many ways, I feel that Khushru remained an undiscovered gem in Pasi Club. Would you agree with that sentiment?
He kept to himself a lot. He didn't. He was a little reserved and a little shy, but he had a great sense of humor. And one of his closest friends used to be Ghani Nis, the photographer. They played a lot of handicap doubles and veterans doubles together. And you couldn't have had two people who were more different, because Ghani was a bloody crook of the highest order on the tennis court. At the slightest chance, he'd call out, sorry, bad luck. And you couldn't, old guy calling it out, you don't bloody query it. And this happened with Khashru once, twice, third time, he told him, he just took the ball, said, "Kani, give it back. It's not ours. It's their bloody point, not ours. Give it back." That day, there was no more fiddling with Kani. He towed the line with him after that. But he was quite something. He was quite something. In fact, when I came into the business and joined in '86 when my father died, he helped me a hell of a lot. He stood by me. And then in the later years, I stood by him. That's what it was.
Wonderful, Cyrus. Really, it's great to see this very wonderful family bond. Long may it prosper, Sai. Sai, when you play tennis today, and you do play with us quite a bit, and we suddenly see those serves whizzing past, or we see one being snapped straight down the line, and we wonder, where on earth has this come from? This guy was coughing his heart out a minute ago. He was barely able to stand. He was wheezing and sneezing and tired. And then suddenly the sizzling backhand, all this superb service ace comes. And then, we look at each other and say, well, yeah. So the fashions of brilliance are there, Sai. And I guess genes has a lot to play with it too. I believe Naushir is playing, he's a coach or something
yeah, he runs his own tennis club in America. He had tremendous talent, and he went quite far. He went on the Junior Davis Cup team. In fact, it was called the Galia Cup in those days. So he represented India on that, and he had tremendous potential. It was just that the standard and level at that stage was so high in India that it was very difficult to really break through. It was very tough. And I think if you look at today's levels of playing, if you took out one or two players, I think half these guys wouldn't have qualified for the nationals in those days. I don't think they'd have even made it to the through the qualifying. It's a nasty thing to say.
I heard it on the grapevine that you had played Cupid to Jahangir and Gul. Who says you played Cupid? Jahangir stoutly denies that. He says he did all the hard work himself. But besides that, you were very considerate in taking care of young Darius, who was Darius, isn't he? Youngest of the three? And he was Kawab Mein Haddi, and you were the one planning with Jahangir and how to fix this little guy so he wouldn't be in the wrong place at the right time.
I don't know about that. Taking care of Darius was never very easy and still isn't, I think. But Jahangir and I were very, very close and are still very, very close friends. In fact, when we were growing up, I think he was one of the closest friends I had, along with Sai Tigara. So we were very close to each other. And I was just so happy that Gul found him and he found Gul. Yes, I was there, but I did nothing about it. He did all the work.
Yeah, he says so. Gul thinks differently, but he says so. But talking about Gul, I think it's time we got her on the show. What do you think, Sai?
Yeah, absolutely. Because she's the one who knows all the history.
Okay,
I can give you the stories. So,
rather, let's get Gul onto the show.
Gul, will you unmute yourself? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Hi there. She's sitting in Pune, and lovely to have her with us. So now she is an absolute treasure chest on our great grandfather, J.F. Madden.
Oh, great. I was just about to bring that up. Good. Now, Sai, I've been interviewing you long enough. It's time you interviewed her about your grandfather. I think it's time for me to take a back seat so I can just enjoy a drink quietly and listen to the two of you.
Okay, so
go ahead, Sai.
Gulzeen, go ahead. Start with that first picture.
That's Jamshedji Framji Madden, our great grandfather, and all your theater love has come from him, because that was his first love. He was a pioneer, and we know the story that he built this great empire, and he had many cinemas, and but we should also, I want to tell you like where he started. He started off, he was basically a kid with 4 brothers. He was a son of a Parsi Mobed, And I've just come to find out that they lived in Bombay, and his father was the Panthak of the Intawala Agyari in Dhobi Talao in Bombay. I still have to verify that. I came across an old Gujarati newspaper cutting, and it was mentioned there. Now with COVID, it's difficult because the Agyaris are closed. So to go and find out whether in 1843, whether Framji Madden was exactly the morbid, but we've always told that that he came from a priestly family, and his father didn't have enough money to send the kids to school, and his uncle was the one who looked after him and his brothers, sent them to school. And then the uncle lost his money, and all the kids suddenly had to drop out and go on a living. So they all joined the theater. His elder brothers, Kharsetji, Nasarwanji, there was Jahangir, Pestanji, they all went into the Parsi theater industry in Bombay, which was pretty big. There was the Elphinstone Natak Company, and they were mostly doing plays all in Gujarati and in Urdu. And the men would do the roles of the women. And apparently he had a very sweet voice, and he acted in many plays. Then subsequently, doing that, starting on a salary of 4 rupees as a curtain puller and a prop boy, he ended up buying the theater company. And he must have had a very he must have had amazing business acumen, because he went traveling by ship to Karachi, and he started trading. He started buying stocks in auctions, trading, going between Karachi and Calcutta. And that's how he landed up in Calcutta. And he and another friend of his from the theater industry called Mr. Saklat, they formed a partnership, and they set up a business around about 1883. He came to Calcutta, and he made his business being a general merchant. He made his money actually doing that. And but theater was his love. So he bought these 2 theaters. He bought the Elphinstone Theatre and the Alfred Khatau Theatre, brought them to Calcutta, and he set himself up at 5 Dharamtala, which was the family home. And he had his shops there, and right adjacent to the family home was the Corinthian Theatre. The Corinthian Theatre was where all the action took place, every single play. And in fact, your early Parsi nataks that would have happened in the early days would have all been staged at the Corinthian Theatre. So that was at number 8. That was at number 8 Dharamtala, and they lived at number 5 Dharamtala. And he had his general provision shop there. And he started to get a lot of orders and from the army, and he started to supply. That's what it used to look like, 5 Dharamtala. This was a photograph on his letterhead in those days. So you can still see the railing and everything there. If you go and look at 5 Dharamtala, you'll be able to figure it out. So he got a lot of orders from the army to supply the troops, and amazing work, because it was very dangerous work, and getting the supplies to all the different cantonments. And in recognition, he was given in 1818 the OBE, and then 1818, right? The OBE. And that's right. And that was not because of his theater work, but now see, the theater was in him, and he was excited and interested. And when cinema started in 1902, he ordered a projector, and he started screening films in the tent in the Maidan and in the Corinthian Theatre. And he started the Elphinstone Bioscope Company in 1904. And then he started making short films. And he was basically, a lot of the indigenous films that were made by him.
That's right. Oops.
We lost Gulu with the net connection. So
Yeah, well,
We-
Sai,
we
you
can-
know, he at one time owned 127 theaters.
Yeah, we came too late. I think Gulu and I came in far too late. No, we were just saying, Gul, that he owned over 120 theaters, and both of us landed
Yeah.
up a little too late.
A little too late. Yeah, nothing left. Not even a seat. Sorry, we've got a power outage here, so the line. went.
All right. Ratan,
And,
why don't you show some of
then
the
he-
shops that he
he's-
had? Some photographs of the shops, Ratan? While Gulu keeps on talking. Gulu, carry on talking.
Continue talking. Okay,
Yes, please.
and yeah, so then he started making movies, and then he started Madden Theatres came into being in about 1919. No, 1919. I'm getting very confused. Sorry. Yeah, 1919. That's right. And he started off by doing a whole lot of mythological movies and stuff like that, and he got a lot of foreign talent. He got in Italian actors, actresses, and directors, and it was a huge thing that was his passion. He passed away in 1923, and after that, the whole empire was on. It carried on, but it was just not the same. From his 100 theaters, it came down to about 35. And there was a huge fire in 1925. Apparently, the explosion that took place, because his nitrate film is very flammable.
Flammable.
And
Yeah.
it completely, all their films, all their studio stuff, everything got destroyed. So because of that, there's a total lack of any sort of heritage that we have. No films, no photographs, nothing. I mean, literally, it's that whole thing just went up in smoke. And
A friend of mine is Johar Sarkar, who is very much into this historical facts on films and Indian filmmaking, etc. And he had mentioned to me about the Parsi connection and wanted to get some information. So, if you permit, I'll give him your number, and he can perhaps have a chat with you.
Definitely, but I found through missingparsi.com, because I was making the family tree, which is now like over 300 people. We've made a website with some cousins of mine, Ashley Coates and Anjali Dhar. We've made maddentheatres.com. And Ashley is the man behind it. He does all the legwork and has put it up, and it's a fantastic resource for anybody who wants to know anything about JFM. Before, there was nothing, and it's really like coming together. Pretty great. But I'm very happy to talk to your friend.
Sure. Whilst you're talking about the theater, a very well-known cousin who acts in Hollywood. Would you care to share some information about him? And Ratan, can we have his photograph up, please?
Yeah, Nari, that you're talking of Nari,
Right.
who changed his name to Eric when he went.
Eric.
Eric
Quite
Abari.
right. Quite right.
We had a very close bond because he's from Darjeeling. He played cricket. He used to open the batting for North Point, in fact, at one time. And superb actor. And went away to the US. And he's made a name for himself there. His mother is my dad and Kashu uncle's sister. So that's the connection. So we're very close. And he really did well over there. You remember him in one of the top roles was in Mummy, and then in Home Alone, and then he's done a lot of serials, and he's done well. Independence Day, right at the beginning. Right at the beginning. So he's done well, but he did some great work on stage in Darjeeling. They did Sleuth in Darjeeling, which was a class act with a friend of ours called Robbie Suba, and I think it could have compared to anything anywhere in Calcutta or outside.
And I believe they also own 2 theaters in Darjeeling, the Rink and the Capitol.
That's right. The Avaris owned Rink and Capitol, both of which were there. Neither today, I mean, the Rink is gone, it's become a mall, and the Capitol has been taken back by the municipal corporation and it's become the town hall again. So they've now got multiplexes at the Rink Mall. That's all.
Aside, there was also, you had mentioned to me, I remember that there was some Parsi cemetery over there in Darjeeling.
Yeah, that's been there a very long time. It's a
And you
lovely
spent
little
quite a bit
place.
yourself keeping it maintained and,
Trying to maintain it, but very difficult to do because it keeps getting broken into, and the land, it's also expired. We had a lease on it from 1901, done by my great grandfather. It's in his name. It was a lease for 100 years, and the rental was 1 rupee a year. So when it expired in 2001, we went back for renewal, and this carried on until I met the DM one day, and I said, "Look, help me out with it." He said, "Is it still with you?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Then why are you trying to make it? Just relax and carry on." So I said, "But what about the papers? I need some documentation." But it's still there. It's not in very good condition. There are no Parsis now left in Darjeeling. I've also got no interest now in Siliguri or Darjeeling. So I don't go up at all. I don't go up at all.
But sir, your family had, I believe, a hotel and a shop at the mall.
Yeah, we
Central
had two
Hotel was, I
shops.
remember staying in that hotel. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a hotel and we had two shops. Dad's younger brother Naswan and his wife ran it, and it did very well until we ran into the. Now that's a shot of Chaurasta. The extreme left is, you'll see Madden's. That shop is still there today. It's called Chaurasta
Yeah.
Stores. In those days, it was called Madden's. And next to it is a shop named Habib Malik, which is also still there. But the others have all disappeared. Hathaway disappeared and everything else did. But this goes back a very, very long time. This goes back a long time. So the Parsis have been there for a hell of a long time.
Okay. So, legendary father, legendary great grandfather, and I guess you'd put yourself somewhere in the middle.
No, I don't think I'd ever fit into either shoes, really.
No,
We're in
you
the
don't have to
class
fit
that
into
they're
yours. Believe me, Cyrus, you are, as we said, quintessentially Cyrus. You're different. You're different from anyone that I've ever met, and you are you. And I think we all take pride in that. But before we get into all that, talk to me about Turfite, the magazine that you ran in Bombay. And, you were running it from a little cubicle in an office that was no
It was
larger than a small cubicle itself. And John was telling me about it, and your love for horses. So tell us something about that side. There you go. Yeah.
It was one of the issues of it. It was a weekly, and it came out every week for 2 years. For 2 years, it came out every week. And who helped me to a huge extent was AFS Talia Khan, Bobby Talia Khan, who used to do the cricket commentary. Bobby used to be the auctioneer at the racecourse as well before. And he started writing a column for me. We became great friends. I would have lunch with him every Wednesday at the cricket club. He refused to take any payment. And I think Turfite was what really gave me the sort of credibility and the projection into the game. And I think racing has given me back now much, much more than what I've probably given to racing. So it's allowed me to do so much. And I'm just grateful to my parents for allowing me to continue with it, because he just took one promise out of me, Dad, when he said, all right, you're going into this professionally, you're going to go into journalism, you're writing a column, you're publishing a paper. Promise me one thing, you will never own a horse. At that stage, the thought didn't even cross my mind, because there was no question of owning a horse. I didn't even have the money to publish each weekly. It was difficult.
Perhaps to feed yourself, forget a horse. Okay.
And the other part of it was that it brought me into touch with the entire racing fraternity, and it forged a bond with a lot of people that I still enjoy today.
Yep.
So I'm really grateful for that. Very happy for that.
Well, Sai, you became the chief steward of the RCTC, the Royal Calcutta Turf Club, which is really saying something, Sai. You've been places. And the way you came into it and the way you left, you just walked out of it when you said, enough is enough. I will not abide by this, and that's it. So, traces of your dad, man of principle, so far and no further, that's it. So well done, Sai. I think that's a a tremendous job that you did. And well, I don't know anybody in racing who has a bad word to say about you or treats you anything with the greatest respect.
I think
Knowledge of horses.
my children probably have that because I tip them all the wrong horses.
Well, okay. Uh, well, you studied horses, you loved horses, you become knowledgeable, you did your commentary, you've run auctions, you've done auctions for art, you've done auctions
I
for
know
cricketers.
nix about art. I can say that. But the advantage
you
of doing an art auction, was that you have 120 works which you have to go through in a span of 2.5, 3 hours. So you don't even talk about the artist, you don't even talk about the painting. You just introduce it and you go straight into bidding. So that suited me fine, as long as I didn't have to describe what I was selling, because if they'd asked me about it, I wouldn't have known Hussein from Tagore. That was the difference.
All right. So you just named two of the best artists and perhaps the most expensive ones in the country. So I know you know nothing about art. We will not get further into that. Well, we've talked about, but talk about your auctioning experiences with cricket.
That started off really in Bangladesh, where they launched their Premier League, and they brought me there for the first time. This is not the Bangladesh one. This was a charity auction that we did, as I told you a little earlier, in Calcutta, where we had Saurav autographed the bat, and we then auctioned the bat. And we got, I think Sachin was there as well. And I've always had a very, very close affinity for the deaf. I think I never realized at that stage that I was also gradually going to be losing my hearing. But I worked with the deaf from 1976-77 with the oral school, which was run by Mrs. Aidenwala and then by Jaru Postwala and now Badur. And Zareen Chowdhury was the one who brought me into that, because she formed a group called the Action Players, and we used to do a lot of mime together. The school was one of the most amazing things you could ever be a part of, because I'm talking 76, 77, when you came in feeling low and you were not feeling good and you walked into that school, you always came out smiling, because all those kids were smiling right through. And that's when you started telling yourself that, here are children who have so many things against them. They come from very poor backgrounds. They can't hear. They don't even know what sound is like. And they're always smiling. And we have an issue and we have a big thing about it and say, oh God, I can't handle this. It's becoming such a problem. So it taught you a lot. And whenever I was feeling down in those days, the one place I'd always visit would be the oral school for deaf kids.
Wow.
Zareen played a very big role in my theater and forging me to become a good actor, I think. That started from my school days. And she's a remarkable lady. She's a remarkable lady, a great actress and a wonderful teacher. And she then went on to teach my kids. They used to go to her for speech and drama as well. So a strict disciplinarian. Wow. You didn't fool around with her.
So full circle, the father and the children. Wow.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Well, Sai, now you've been into artwork, you've been into auctioning cricketers and cricket memorabilia. You met with Sachin, with Saurav, When you came back to Calcutta, you started a magazine. Talk to us about Skyline.
Cal Skyline was really a fun thing with friends. And it was Sarah Adhikari and her group who came in and said they wanted to do it, and we managed to get things together. We enjoyed that. For 2 years, I think we ran Skyline. It was very difficult keeping it going, but it was an experience. It was an experience. No question on that.
Well, after Skyline, Sai, I think you had to focus on the family business because your dad departed a bit too early. And then came perhaps your courtship with Trista.
But I think, as I said, my biggest regret was not completing my law degree in
Yeah, well,
Bombay.
as I said,
And I think
we're not too finicky about that, Sai. We really have no problems, but you're not finishing that.
and
We have
my
no problems at all.
I think my best decision, the best decision I ever made in my life till now has been marrying Trista.
Well,
I
we're coming to that. We're coming to that, Sai.
okay,
You
okay.
met her at the end of May. And by the end of September, you had decided and fixed the date for marriage, which left a whirlwind courtship. I asked
went-
Tristan that to change her mind. But she wouldn't answer. She only giggled. What to make of that, Sai? You will have to give us the answer.
I guess I must have made an impression.
You did make an impression.
I
Well,
met her for the first time in Delhi. My mum, actually, it was arranged. Thanks, mum, Kitty Parak and Nauza Parak were the ones who got together and said, you know, your son's going to Delhi for work. Tell him he must go and meet this girl. He must go and meet this girl. I didn't want to meet anyone at that stage. I wasn't in the least interested. I made a trip to Delhi. I came back the same day and I told mom, I said, I'm sorry, I had no time. I came straight back. I haven't met. Then I went again. I think that was in May, and went across, got in touch with them, and they said, come and have dinner. I said, no, I don't think I'll have dinner. I'll drop in and have a drink, and I'll push off after that. So I got in, I had a drink. I met Trista. I stayed after the drink. I had dinner. I had coffee. I invited her out for lunch the next day. And I think by the time I got back to Calcutta, which was 2 days later, my mind was pretty made up. I'm very impulsive at the best of times.
Well, so let's take things point by point. We want to come to the point why you were not too keen on getting married. Now, I don't know, the grapevine has it that you were, by then, you had already gone through the theater route and were a well-accomplished actor. Well, I would say well-accomplished because you acted as Snoopy in a play,
Yeah,
Peanuts.
that was many years back. Yeah, late 70s, 77 or so, I think.
I think you had 12 shows or something.
20 shows on the trot.
20 shows.
20 shows at
there
Kalamandir
we have Cyrus over there. Yeah, Cyrus in the white polo neck right
Extreme
in the middle.
right. Yeah,
That's right.
that was a role that really made me. People still remember it. That's me taking on the Red Baron in his Sopwith camel, which he used to keep imagining.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that role. But it was Zareen really who told me when we were auditioning for it, and I wanted to do Charlie Brown. I mean, that was the name of the play. I wanted to do Charlie Brown. And she said, Cyrus, this is the role for you. Listen to me. And I'm so glad I did, because it made me what I was at that stage. It really projected me on the theater scene. Everybody knew me, and I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that publicity and a little bit of fame in the city. I really had a great time with it.
Well, how should I put this? I have it on record that you were adorable and that many people remember that role very fondly. Amongst those who remember it very fondly and remember you very fondly were a number of ladies on whom you made a very good impression. Now, that was in the swinging 80s, Sai. So did that have anything to do with your reluctance to get married? The nation
Well, if it
wants
did,
to
then
know,
I wouldn't
Cyrus.
have decided in 2 days. No?
The nation wants to know, the community wants to know.
I guess it was a passing phase.
You're talking about the
But,
acting or the ladies?
Both, I'd say both.
Okay, all right.
But what was fun was that after that, it got my love for theatre in, and Sai Dhatigara and myself formed a little company of our own called Entertainers, and we did quite a few major productions together, which did very well. We did Odd Couple, which sold 6 shows in the Kalamandir main auditorium, house full. And that was in 1979, I think, or 1980. So we went on from that, and we had a great relationship. I mean, you couldn't call us business partners. We were just such good friends that everything worked out and went the right way. I
So
really enjoyed being with him, and he's a great guy.
wonderful. Now, Cyrus, talk to us about your relationship with your in-laws. Your mother-in-law is extraordinarily fond of you, I understand. Why?
I'm a very lovable person, but basically, I couldn't have asked for a better set of in-laws. I mean, my dad always used to tell me, he says, when you get married, you have to remember that you're marrying into a family. And I said, oh, let's go in from one year and come out from the other and say, yeah, that's fine. It's okay. No issue about it. But I was welcomed into it right from the start. They've been so warm, and it was almost like having my mom and dad back again. So they've really been very, very good to me. And both Trista and I are so happy that we got them relocating now and coming back to Cal. They got a flat in the same building where we are. They'll be
lovely.
Jimbo and Khurshid's neighbors. So
how lovely! How
be
lovely!
in by hopefully end of the year. So we're really looking forward to that.
But Cyrus, you really are the quintessential family man. Now, talking about the family man, I had a chat with Trista, and she's been telling me stories about herself and her 4 children, and by extended family, 6 children. The 4 children, of course, that I refer to are, in that order, Jamshed, Shara, Tash, and the biggest child of all, the biggest kid of all, Cyrus.
Well, Shara still keeps saying that don't be such a kid.
Well, Shara has some extremely fond memories of you, Sai, and all the crazy things that you've been done. She told me about that mouse in your pocket.
Yeah.
Though as a lawyer, she said, I can't prove it and nobody else can. But Dad claims, okay. So, Sai, tell us about the times that you spent with them, growing up, and you've enjoyed yourself, taking them to tennis matches for Jamshed or tennis practice, scouts, kites, bulbuls, basketball, your family life. And
I think the most wonderful thing that happened for all 3 kids also was Parsi Club, because they grew up there. Shara and Tasha learned their basketball there. Jamshed learned to play sport there, which included cricket and hockey, which he got adept at much later after he once almost took your eye off. That was many years back. If you remember that incident, he took a swing and sliced you open.
Just under the eye.
So I think we've really been blessed with the opportunities, and being in Calcutta, we've had a lovely community, and I couldn't have asked for a better family. But Sundays used to be the worst day in the week for Trista and me, because the day would begin at 6:30 in the morning. You'd take Jamshed for cricket. And you wound up from there, you came back, and then you took the girls for guiding. Then you went back to pick up Jamshed from cricket, and then you went back to pick up the girls from bulbuls and guiding. So we used to really look forward to the rest of the week, because I think this really kept you very, very busy. But we enjoyed it. We really enjoyed it. And the beautiful part of it was doing things together. We went on holidays together, we played together, and we really had fun together. I've been very, very fortunate. I think Trista is the one who brought them up extremely well. I was the one who'd spoil them totally and create all the trouble. But I keep pulling their leg and telling them that you're very lucky you had a mother like Trista.
There are stories about you playing tennis across the sofa with Jamshed. And whenever Trista told you you'd break something, he said, hey, everything's already broken anyway, don't worry about it. No, but Sai, your love for food. Your love for food. Tell us about your love for food, particularly street food, all the chaats.
Achar gachar is what you call it.
Achar gachar.
My aunt used to call it that, Naju. She always said he likes achar gachar, and that was very true. And I think my first credit account as a child was with my children man outside Xavier's, with the old fellow who had a beard, and he used to be there. So I used to buy stuff from him and then settle with him every couple of days. And then when I grew up and got older, I think he made more money from me than he ever got from any settlement of accounts, because every time I went, I'd give him 200, 300 bucks, and his smile would light up the entire school. He was a lovely guy.
Wow.
So yes, I loved that food, and loved eating on the streets. Missing that, really missing that just now.
Sai, your love for street food has been passed on to your children, because I understand Sarah and Tash used to take a rupee each and go down to the puchka wala to eat, and would quietly sneak out of the house so that nobody would know, until they found out that you had an account with the puchka wala and would go there every alternate day yourself. So
it wasn't so much an account. What would happen was they would be going there almost every day. And if I came back from office and said, come on, let's go across, why don't we go there? And they'd happily come again and quietly tell him that, don't tell him that we came at 5 o'clock and we're coming back again now at 7. No? So just keep quiet on that. And so I'd pay for both. I'd pay for the 5 o'clock shift and the 7 o'clock shift.
Okay. So, well, Sai, you've got a wonderful family, and it's been a great time spending with you. But Sai, do talk to us about, your 25 years at CPADC, where you had such a huge influence on the Calcutta Dramatic Club, Calcutta Parsi Amateur Dramatic Club.
The first time I directed a play for them was in 1989. And I was supposedly the assistant director. Yasmin was directing, and she said, I will only direct if you come in and do everything for me. And it created a big stir in the committee at that time. They were very upset that how can you do something like that and you are supposed to do it and it doesn't work that way. But I enjoyed it. Then there was a break after that because I didn't want an assistant director for a while. And I came back a couple of years later. It's been an uphill task. It's been fun. I always jokingly say it's the penance I do each year, because my Guju is far from very good. And I basically have a script in English. And if I don't like it, then I rewrite it. And then Yasmin has to rewrite that into Gujarati and give that back. And then that has to be fiddled around with. But it's been a great time. We took it to 100 years. 2007, we completed 100 years, which was really saying something. It's an amazing institution. And what is nice just now is we've got a lot of the younger people who are showing a lot of interest and coming in. And that has really been thanks to someone like Yazdi Karai. He's really done a hell of a lot. His coming back to Cal has given CPADC a lovely little fillip and a push up to keep going.
That, and I think wonderful leading lady that I see in the photograph, in the middle.
Yes,
she's gorgeous. Yes. She is gorgeous, isn't she?
Can we go back to that, Ratan? You fixed that a little quickly. Now, in fact,
there you are.
There you are.
With the polka dot skirt.
In fact, this was the 2016 production, and we put it together again. You saw it on Nowruz Day. They showed part of it, what came out again. So it's been a great opportunity. I've enjoyed it and been frustrated with it. But on the whole, we've managed to keep it going, and that's what counts.
Cyrus, saying quintessentially Cyrus, would it also be quintessentially eccentric Parsi? Would you agree with that part of it? No, I give you some of the live examples as quoted by your family. Cyrus is like Sheldon in the play Big. He has his own spot on the sofa, which he will sit on, and he will not move and walk around. He will refuse to sit until whoever is sitting on that spot in the sofa gets up, and then he will sit. Exactly like Sheldon in the Big Bang Theory.
So if he's allowed that, I don't see why I shouldn't.
Okay. You also have it that Cyrus is always extremely worried that the battery on his phone is about to die. When it reaches 50%, he charges to his bag and carries at least 3 separate batteries, spare batteries, in his bag at any moment.
That's why I'm on my
Cyrus,
laptop just now and it's plugged in.
Cyrus is mad about dogs. Mad is putting it politely. Peaches and Schnapps used to get a talk every evening after you came home from office, and you would discuss your day with them first before even meeting your own family.
Well, I'll come in at
That's
this
about it.
stage.
Yes, please
There's
do.
there's a lovely story on it that when you come home every day, the two people who used to be the happiest to see you were the two dogs.
Okay.
So you always gave them that little more time. The kids were always there, but sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they weren't at the door. But these two rascals would always be at the door. So there was no question about not saying hello to them and saying hi and how much of a day did you have.
Okay, that excuses your behavior with Peaches and Schnapps. But why would you sit with Cruz and explain to him part of the horse is the elbow and which part of it is the hand and how the horses walk? And
This was not so much for Cruz, it was more for the benefit of my two daughters who refused to believe that a horse had a knee and had an elbow. I had to show
Well-
them that. So I tried showing it on him, but it was difficult because he didn't have very long legs. That was the trouble.
well, it certainly worked because they still remember that sign. So well done. So definitely eccentric Parsi. We'll tick that box.
100%.
We'll tick that box off. Now, Sai, you are, to put it politely, a little deaf.
Little?
Deaf, exactly. Now, since you are a little deaf, there was a conversation about a man at the auction, which, Cyrus, you must relate to us.
It wasn't actually at the auction. It was we were having tea together. There was a racing official named Mr. Corner, Robin Corner, myself, and someone else who came in and asked that. Gentleman came up and asked and said, do you think so-and-so is going to be buying this? Will buy horses this year? Will buy, not horses. He just said, you think he'll buy this year? Shara was sitting there. I didn't hear buy. I heard die. And I turned around and told him, I said, no. I said, people like the one you're talking about don't just die like that. They need to suffer a bit before they go. So Shara goes, Daddy, he's not telling you he's dying. He's telling you about buying horses. So I said, no, I'm sorry, I heard dying. But anyway, what I said holds. I'm not changing that.
Well, Sai, you are, to put it in a nutshell, you are a self-made man. You have lived a life that's different. You've trod a path that's different. You know, you've been yourself in every way. You've been true to yourself. You've been true to your father's words, the memories that he's left behind. You've been true to your family. You know, you inherited as a trustee. You were part of a trust which had the KMM, and when you found that they had no funds, you even put on a plate to raise funds for them.
That was in 1987. Yeah.
Yeah, in 87, I think it was called A Cat's Life or some such thing.
Gaslight. It was called Gaslight. It was a thriller. It was a thriller.
So Cyrus, you know, you've been your own man. You've stood by what you believe is right, and you believe in doing good, basically in living the tenets of Zoroastrianism and Parsis to the hilt with your thoughts, your words, your deeds. Sai, how do you push yourself? What drives you to carry on? You know, the amount of work that you do for the community, in CPADC or in the trust, the cases you look after, the people you take care of in these COVID times, rushing around. It's not easy, Sai. It's hard. And believe me, when I say that, you know, you are a gem and we're very, very proud of you and the work that you do. It's a pleasure knowing you, Sai. It's great to have you as a friend. It's fantastic having you as a Parsi, and it's wonderful having you as a colleague on the trust. It may be a bit too much to take in, Sai. I know it is perhaps a bit too sentimental, but I dare say it's wonderful having a person with such a proud heritage, a wonderful legacy, and carry on that legacy in the way that you are.
I think the person who probably taught me that would probably be a cousin of mine in Bombay, and she's a doctor. And I was complaining to her once many years back about, I'd done something for somebody, and he didn't even acknowledge it, and I didn't even get a thank you. And she turned around and told me, she said, if you want to do something for someone and you expect something in return, then don't do it. You want to do something, then just go ahead and do it because you want to. And I think that is what has been the background to this right through. Being on the trust gave me a great opportunity to work with wonderful people. I have a wonderful board. And a man like Madhur is an absolute inspiration to have on that board. Yes, thanks to him, we have to debate another 1 hour each time we have a meeting, but there is no one who probably puts in the sort of effort and work that he does. Even my court cases and everything that was there, it was he who was always standing by me, helping me with it, in fact, reading up on it and advising on it. I think he's also been remarkable. We've been blessed that we've worked together as a team with you at the helm. We've had a wonderful time, and I'm just lucky that we had a good team to work with. Otherwise, it would have all been so difficult to achieve. And everyone does so much which is unaccounted for. There's so many people in the community who also do so much. I mean, I think I do a minuscule compared to what some of the others do, especially our caregivers. I think they're the ones who are the real heroes of the community. And,
yeah, they are the heroes. They are the heroes of our community. There's no doubt, Sai. Very well spoken, Sai. I guess, Ratan, it would be only correct to leave with memories of the lockdown and once again highlighting the role that Cyrus has played in our community, in interviewing so many people and talking to them. So, Ratan, if we can have the last photographs, please, before we all adjourn to see the opening match of the IPL.
That was with Sunil.
Sunil, that's right.
That's Leander and Baichung.
Yep.
Biggie Lal, my neighbor.
Yes.
Derek.
Brother.
Yeah, it was some good times, good fun.
Yes, so thanks for being here, Sai. Thanks for letting us know what essentially makes Cyrus and who exactly is the quintessential Cyrus. A man of his own, his mind, a man who knows his own way, and well, a man of principle. Thanks, Sai.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.